Welcome to New Orleans. Today we thought we'd show you a virtual synopsis of sorts of what you'll see and of course a brief overview of the stories you may hear on your city tour with us, La Vie Nouvelle Orléans 1718 private tours. Now keep in mind we do like to customize our tours, so depending on your personal interests, your tour may vary from another. That said, let's get started. After being picked up from your hotel, we'll head straight to Canal Street. Was it ever actually a canal? Maybe, maybe not. What it certainly was and what it represents for us on our tour today is the dividing line between the Creole section of town and the American section, and thus begins our tour. Now we'll head straight down Canal Street towards the river, then turn left downriver into the Vieux Carré. Along the way, we'll discuss some of the men who had important roles in the development and eventually the founding of the settlement of Nouvelle Orléans. We'll stop briefly in front of one of the most beautiful and iconic buildings in New Orleans, of course, St. Louis Cathedral, where we'll tell many stories of some of the most well-known characters in our past and some that should be more well-known than they are. Now we'll drive directly into the French Quarter, showing you some of the oldest 18th and 19th century buildings that still remain today. A topic of discussion will of course be the architecture, anywhere from the shotgun houses to the Creole cottages, to the Creole townhouses and the differences in between. We'll cover a full gauntlet of the heroes and heroines, from pirates placed on pedestals to some truly evil souls that walked, and some say still walk, these city streets. The French Quarter is truly a rabbit hole when it comes to the history and some rather unique stories that are often told here. I've often said and heard the phrase, tour guides never let the truth get in the way of a good story. And while that may be true, there's no need to really embellish of the history of New Orleans. Leaving the French Quarter, we'll traverse through some of the maybe lesser known neighborhoods of New Orleans, but really some of the cultural hotspots like Tremé, the Marigny, and the Bywater. Housing some of the most historic landmarks in this city is the Tremé neighborhood, and we'll take a deep dive into an area known as Congo Square, where we'll discuss much of the African diaspora and maybe some lesser mainstream faiths that still exist very much today. The funerary arts played a major role in developing my love of the city, and why our tour will focus on the details of these works of art. Yes, you'll hear some of the stories of the would-be forever homes of the eccentric celebrities that once called New Orleans home, but our stories go well beyond the pretentious palatial permanent palaces they'll occupy for eternity. Here's looking at you, Nick. Anyway, onward bound to the Creole neighborhoods of the Marigny and Bywater. The true hub of live local entertainment and the main attraction in the Marigny, of course, is Frenchman Street. But who is this man Marigny? Why and who did he name Frenchman after? The story is deeper than you think. There are some true hidden gems off the beaten path in this city, and some very talented mural artists who call New Orleans home. Their talents are on full display in the Bywater neighborhood. By the way, the Bywater neighborhood has some serious history. We'll definitely explore that before heading out back to Esplanade Avenue. The beautiful oak-lined streets of Esplanade Avenue may only be surpassed by the beauty of Carrollton and or St. Charles, but just by a hair, and on any given day one could supplant the other. Whilst we travel down Esplanade on our way to Mid-City neighborhood and ultimately to City Park, you'll see why New Orleans is an architectural masterpiece on display. The beautiful waterways that were once main arteries of trade cut right through the Mid-City neighborhood and create a very desirable place to call home for the locals here. City Park is stunning. It's a must-visit and should be on every traveler's list. We'll take a brief drive through it, stopping for beignets and chicory coffee at the second Café du Monde location, located directly in the middle of hundreds of live oaks that make this park so pleasurable to the eye. After after our visit to Café du Monde, we'll head for a little closer view of these beautiful neoclassical design mausoleums and family tombs New Orleans is so well known for. Not only do we focus on the residents of these opulent structures, but we'll discuss some of the stories of the men and women who are responsible for creating them as well. If I'm being honest here, I often get caught up, yes, enjoying the alluring and artistic designs of marble and granite tombs, but also telling the stories of these New Orleanians of the past. There is just something so calming, serene, if you will, that keeps me coming back, even when I'm not touring. Into the American section of town we head, starting in the underrated neighborhood of Carrollton. The former town of Carrollton is indeed underrated, in my opinion anyway. Number one, another canopy of live oak trees that we can drive right under. And of course, some of the best bars, some of the best restaurants, maybe local spots that not everybody knows about can be found in the Carrollton neighborhood. So do yourself a favor, look it up, and maybe come out here, maybe one of the days you're visiting here in New Orleans. Turning on to St. Charles, downriver, back towards the old square, with a combination of streetcars, the parks and universities, and of course the not-so-humble dwellings, make it a visually stunning experience. And for me anyway, it never gets old. Now, sometimes people assume the entirety of Uptown is called the Garden District and vice versa, but it is and was a very specific area of the Uptown section. And that's the final leg in our little excursion today. We will discuss the antebellum homes and even get into the details of some of the uber-talented architects that graced New Orleans with their presence in the 19th and 20th centuries. And yes, of course, for those of you that are interested in doing so, we will show you some of the celebrity homes and maybe the homes and places known for filming your favorite TV shows of the past. All this before heading back to your accommodations. Now, obviously, 300 years of history is a tough task to be told in 3 to 3.5 hours, but I do try to get as much in as I possibly can. And trust us, it will fly by. Now, of course, if you're interested in taking one of our private tours, please look us up at privatetoursneworleans.com or message us through our socials at Nola on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube. Hopefully this helps those of you looking to make a decision on what to do and see here in our unique city. And even if you'd just like to ask us questions about anything New Orleans related, please don't hesitate to comment or contact us. Thanks again. C'est la vie.